Among the obstacles to the realization of these objectives is noted the uneven development of the territories. As practice shows, regional differentiation, it is problems of many countries, regardless of the type government and the result of economic development. At the same time, socio-economic differentiation of foreign countries is much lower Russian indicators, as shown on the slide. According to Professor V.K. Sinchava, financial and budget capacity in Russia is much lower than the natural resource capacity, as well as several times lower than in European Union countries, the US, and China. Due to spatial heterogeneity, more than half of their own revenues of regional budgets are mobilized in 1/8 of the country's territory, while only the 1/3 of the population lives in it. This situation complicates the solution of social problems and ultimately slows down the development of the whole country. It is no accident the scientific community as well as practicing economists actively discussing the question of budget growth capacity of the territories as a factor in the transition of the Russian economy to the new technological order specified in the strategy of economic security. The most popular are the researchers of Institute of Economics of the RAS, the Institute of Economics of the Ural branch of the RAS, the Financial University, the Institute of Economics and Industrial Production in the Siberian branch of the RAS, the High School of Economics, and the other scientific schools. However, comparative regional studies to develop a single common assessment methodology and subsequently the budget and control the potential areas are still missing. At the same time, we assume that the unrealized revenue capacity could be a factor in ensuring national security and the transition to a new level economic development. That's why the goal of this research is to analyze the process of formation budget capacity of Russian territories, identifying problems of its use and development trends in times of threats to national security. Let me remind you that the theory of this issue was presented at the last seminar. As previously determined, the essence of budget capacity is reflected in three phases. One phase formation, two phase use, and three phase expansion. During this seminar, I will focus on the process of formation and use of the region's budget capacity. Researchers and economists have repeatedly pointed out that ensuring the economic security of the state is carried out through the centralization of the fiscal system, which has a negative impact on the growth of the budget capacity on the territories. Thus, researchers of Ural Institute of Economics, Sidorova and Tatarkin, noted that decentralization is a source of innovation in state and municipal management and stimulates regional and local authorities to develop their own finance capacity. At the same time, in recent years, decisions taken at the federal level in respect of federal taxes have led to a decrease in the tax potential of the regions. A striking example is the reduction of standards for the transfer of income tax and excise taxes to regional budgets. These decisions are taken to enhance the level and function of the system of intergovernmental relations, seem particularly controversial in unstable dynamics of financial assistance to the regions and the volatility of its structure. This slide shows its decline in a number of years, up to 7%. In this case, the federal center is actively increasing its share of this form of financial assistance as budget loans. which are provided not only on the principles of repayment and interest in payment, but have strictly budget orientation, namely the budget deficit and refinancing of previously collected debts. If in 2006 the budget loans amounted to 8 of regional assistance, we see it on a slide. In 27, more than 42%. Over the past 11 years, the volume of regional budget revenues in comparable prices has not changed, despite the fact that the current level of tax burden in Russia exceeded its average value for the countries of the European Economic Union and the BRICS group. At the same time, there are reserves for expanding the tax capacity in the Russian regions. On this slide. First of all, it should include the arrears of payments to the budget which exceeded 1 trillion rubles. Second, establishment progressive personal income tax scale. Third, the reduction of the shadow economy. Fourth, compensation from the federal budget of the regional budget revenues fallen as a result of the consolidated group of taxpayers. Fifth, preservation of regional budgets unutilized, balanced of targeted transfers. We agree that with the opinion of Professor Podporina that even borrowing is not only politically comfortable for the authorities and management, but also economically more reasonable than the increase in tax pressure, which slows down economic growth and development of the budget capacity of future periods. The use of borrowed capital is intended to have both a stabilizing effect on the economy and to stimulate economic development. However, at present, the side of the regions, borrowed capital has become an acute threat to the economic security of the country. The growth rate of public debt exceeded the growth rate of unbudgeted revenues of the Russian regions for 2006 to 2017 in comparable prices by more than 2 times. We see it on the slide. At the same time, the market debt exceeds more than 53% in the structure of the state debt of the Russian regions. In tables. Against the text and anti-budgetary reforms carried out in our country, the problems of forming the non-tax potential were in the background. Since 2006, the share of non-tax payments in the total income of the regions has never exceeded 8%, which is an order of magnitude less than, for example, in England, we see it, UK 34%, or Germany 31%. This slide demonstrates the low efficiency state property use, which is not allowed during the crisis to reduce the debt burden of regional budgets. However, statistics of foreign countries shows that reserves of state and municipal property use in the Russian regions is not enough. Of course, the process of forming the budget capacity affects the process of its use. As noted by the researchers Mingalova and Paznikova, budget capacity is the base category when you create administrative, legal, and socio-economic framework of migration, the region economy, to the innovation model of development. Next, I will proceed to the analysis of the use of the region's budget capacity. To do this, we have identified 2 areas of expenditure. One, investment consumption, and 2, current consumption. Traditionally, investment expenditures are considered to be expenditures on the national economy and housing and communal services. Since 2006, they have increased in both nominal and real terms, but their share in the consolidated budgets of the regions has decreased. Sorry. In the condition of rent-oriented economy, like in our country, and extensive growth, the fundamental science spending a major investment in the future development of Russia territories. Investment in science, especially fundamental, are at high risk, and therefore private investment in this sphere is not enough. Public funding can solve this problem. However, according to the slide, can be seen shares the cost of basic science in general budget spending less than 0.4%. Human capital, the cost of human capital expenditure is an item of long-term development. Many experts note the observed increase in social transfers costs often does not lead to a corresponding improvement in the living standards of social valuable. Of course, this assertion requires a detailed evidence-based study. At the same time, the fall of incomes indicates means a low efficiency of social policy. Judging by the slide, the Russian government is more focused on current needs, so the share of spending on social transfers has increased during the study period, while the share of an investment in human capital has decreased. If the Russian regions in 2006 investment in human capital exceed the cost of social policy 2-4 times, in 2017 in 2 times. According to Sidorova and Tatarkin, financing of social reproduction of the population is not forced diversion of financial resource from the production process and social investment that enhance the quality of life. Reduced funding basic research on human capital suggests preservation prevailing in balancing of economic structure of Russia, and in the future the missed opportunity of transition to a model of intensive and innovation growth. This goal is also hampered by the persistent tendency to exceed the cost of debt over the rate of economic growth. Thus, the average rate on the government bonds for the last 2 years was about 9%, while the growth of industrial production during this period has both positive and negative value, ultimately striving to zero. And about results. Thus, the choice of direction for the use of budget potential in Russia is based on the principles of budget savings, increasing the burden of indirect taxes. The priority of current budget expenditures of the long-term investment, reducing the budget deficit and reducing the level of public debt by any means. There are the postulates of the theory of rational expectations. The process of formation and use of the budget capacity of the Russian regions adapts to the trends of ensuring and stability of the socio-economic situation and the idea of preventing the budget deficit in contrast to the task of economic growth of the territories. Therefore, the prospects for structural changes and improving the welfare of the population in the long term are moving away. The analysis showed stagnation in the development of the region's budget capacity. Moreover, through the management of budget capacity, Russia is not moving to a model of a new technological structure, but it's consolidated the exciting model of economic development of the country, which does not correspond to the goal of the national security strategy. So the report is over. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you, Maria. This very interesting report. Dear friends, I will have a questions. Please.
Ты же хотела один вопрос, так могу.
You have a questions? I will have a questions.
Maybe Maria has already mentioned it earlier, but I'd like to ask why have you chosen the 12-year period from 2006 till 2017 for conducting your research? Maybe there is a reason why you chose not 10 years, 5 years, or 12?
Thank you for your question. Yes, it's was a reason for choose this period because in 2006, yes, was reform of municipal reform when Russian territory was consist in other type of municipals, cities, municipal and yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. More questions?
Let's interact.
If we have not any questions, we have two reviews questions. First of all, it is Ekaterina Leonidova. Please, your report.
Okay, thank you, Maria, for your presentation. It was really interesting and amazing. You have much statistical data in your presentation. It was really good. I want to tell that the level of visual support in your presentation is really high because you have many graphs and tables. And I want to ask you two questions. First of all, how can we measure the level of the region's budget capacity? If is there any methods we can know it? And the second question is, what's the role of regional authorities in creation for the formation for budget capacity in the region?
Thank you very much. About methodology for accounting budget capacity, level of budget capacity. There is no common global methodology, yet it's a very difficult. It's very difficult because in the world there are six approaches to the essence of budget capacity. We and other approaches it is own other methodology of accounting. For example, one of approach consider that the level of budget capacity is an absolute figure. For example, rubles, dollars, euro. Other approaches consider that is not absolutely relative indicator. Now we study this issue and we try to create our methodology in our approach. It's the first question. About second question, role regional authorities. Let me turn the slide. This slide, it's fixed directions. within this the framework of budget and tax laws in Russia, regional authorities can influence on first direction, on third direction, and sixth direction. Only this. For example, 2, 4, and 5 directions is not about regional and municipal authorities. It's only on federal level. But we see that in tables that regional and municipal authorities can be many rubles, 1 billion rubles in budget.
Okay, thank you, and good luck in your next research.
Thank you very much.
Katerina. We have second reviews. It is researcher Galina Belikova. Please, your questions.
Thank you. Maria Alexandrovna, first of all, thank you for your approach and presentation. This is not the first seminar on this topic, and there is a progress in your research. I want to note the clarity and logical consistency of the construction of the report, large empirical base you used, and well-argued conclusions. Also, I want to draw attention on your overall competence in this subject of the budget system of the country. And I have some questions. First question, are the monetary indicators used in the study presented in capable prices? If not, explain why.
Comparable prices. In some tables we want to show the dynamic. For example, these tables, we want to show dynamics. That's why we use comparable prices in 2017 prices. But some tables we want there was important to show not dynamic, more structure and differentiation. For example, these tables. That's why in this table we use not comparable prices.
Okay, thank you. Next question. You consider transactions of use and privatization, municipal and regional property as the main non-tax sources of budget formation. What are other sources of formation of non-tax budget revenues?
Non-taxes incomes included except property use and income from property use, incomes from paid services, for example, paid education, paid services for education. For example, including when free cash, when regional and municipal authorities have right to use free cash on deposits, on bank deposits, and earn and incomes growing within. As part of this seminar, I showed research only property use, but for example, free cash on deposits, about free cash on deposits, I wrote the article last year, and about paid services, I wrote some report on conference.
Okay, thank you. And the last question. One of the sources of non-tax revenues is an environmental impact fee. In your opinion, what are the prospects of these sources in both the regions?
Financial prospects.
Financial
I have to say that last years ago, these payments on environment and on ecology and environment were related to taxes, is not being non-taxes incomes, and now federal government discuss that this income, ecology income, give ecology income status tax, because it's more because it's more tax nature than non-tax nature. Will it grow? I think the dynamic of previous years shows their constant growth, and there is no reason to talk about these incomes will decrease. I think this income will only rise in the future.
Thank you, and I wish you further research development.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I will continue our workshop, and for now I give the floor to the Ksenia, our expert. Please, Ksenia.
Thank you. The report is devoted to the topical issue of surveillance of the budget system as a factor of national security. The author is identified such problems as regional differentiation, low financial and budgetary potential, mobilization of regional budget revenues in a small area. The structure of the report, consistency of its presentation, the validity of the conclusions and proposals should be noted as positive aspects of the report. Consistency, I will emphasize a variety of database, including data of Federal State Statistics Service, Financial Ministry, Federal Treasury, the data contained in the strategic documents. In addition, I would like to note the practical importance of the study, which is to develop a set of measures to increase non-tax capacity. I'd like to ask you some questions. The first group of questions: are there any negative consequences of decentralization of inter-budgetary relation? What are the boundaries of centralization and decentralization?
Thank you for your question. The line between centralization and decentralization is a very philosophical question in modern times, because nobody knows about it. A certain degree of centralization should be, especially in a huge country like Russia. This is necessary to ensure macro stability and macro manageability. But this level is not very high. For example, in Russia in 1993, was president decree according to regional and municipal authorities have the right to impose their own taxes. After 3 years, the number of such taxes reached 200. It was which worsened of tax climate. That's why level of decentralization was not low, because regional and municipal authorities less they stimulate to rise this their income.
The second group of questions: have you considered the experience of European countries in regulating inter-budgetary relations? How do European countries manage to avoid the growth of the tax burden?
Yes, we study European experience. Not only European countries, US and Canada, because US and Canada are federation, like Russia Federation. In the European country, very interesting experience in Sweden and Germany in their practice of transfers to municipal, to local level.
I want to emphasize the high scientific and practical significance of the study, as well as the high level of review of the report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ksenia. Thank you, Maria. And now we have time for discussion. So, who would you like to discuss? Maybe Tatiana or Alexei want to discuss? All right. It's a really interesting thing. So, no one.
Guys, it's your opportunity to speak English.
Yes.
Use it, please.
Yes. You spoke so loud. And now, if there is no questions,
I've got one advice. We have already discussed the terms budget capacity and budget potential, and I've seen in the presentation and in the report that sometimes you switch between them.
Yes.
And it would be better if you choose one term and use it through the whole report, not to confuse the listeners, and they won't think that these terms are different.
Yes, I agree. Sometimes I forgot about capacity and use potential, like in Russia language. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Elena. Okay, if there is no questions, I must tell you to fill, yes, to fill where есть анкета?
Алексей.
Okay. So our scientific workshop is over. Thank you for everyone, and